Hey, Officer Pierce. We're going to talk about effective communications. Wow. Now, there's only so much you can teach about communications to a certain degree. Sometimes in class, it seems like the process, when I first got this PowerPoint given to me, seemed kind of dry. So I had to add Old Vic's savory sauce on here, the gravy, and try to add some things so that you guys get the overall message about what is being said. You as an officer are going to deal with so many different individuals out there in the streets. And it won't always be harmonic. There won't be hot milk and warm cookie moments. There are going to be moments where it's one-way communication after you've tried everything to deal with this individual, to listen to their complaint. They're not happy with the results. And finally, you have to basically put your foot down and say, this is what's going to happen. They may not like that result. And so my bottom line is it's too bad. If it comes to a specific thing, whether it's a lawful stand that you have to enforce, whether it's trying to break up a domestic where people are fighting over the china dish of who gets it, there are going to be some outrageous moments during these domestics that are absolutely crazy. People even fighting over their pets, fighting over the most stupid things that you can even think about. So I always say you want to always strive to keep an open mind of what is being said. Don't automatically kick the switch on and say, this is another stupid ass complaint that I've had to deal with these chuckleheads for the longest time. Because again, you can get thrown through a loophole. You need to strive to listen. Likewise, the message you send to them, you want to make sure that they have received it and are on the same page with you. Meaning, again, if they don't like the results, that's too bad, but as long as they know what's going on. So if you say, you are barred from being here at Wally World at Walmart, do you understand that? Loss prevention has said to you, do not return here. And they said, well, I do my shopping at Walmart. Not anymore. Well, I don't like that. Well, that's too bad. You do it, you're going to get charged with trespassing. I'll give you exceptional service if that's what you mean. You come back here shopping, you are barred from Walmart, I'm going to come around, they call it back, you're here, you're shopping, you're going to get exceptional service from us. So you're laying it right on the line of what takes place, right? But likewise, again, you need to hear what is being said at that moment. And again, when sometimes two people are talking or somebody else is talking, you may not like the results. And you get this.
You were just outside. Come on, go lay down. You were just outside. You don't need to go out again. Go lay down. The war. Go lay down. Go lay down. Go on. Back talker. Go lay down. Go fight. Go to your bed.
How many times do you run into somebody, I mean, you can actually communicate better to your dog than certain individuals. I mean, reality, listen, some of you have been in even a police cadet would understand, anybody dealing in fire or other public service programs already know exactly what I'm talking about. Where somebody's even been out of shape where they get served a subpoena, they don't like it. And you're just the middle person trying to do the best you can, and they're screaming at you over something so crazy. So likewise, sometimes you have to strive to listen to sometimes the overall garbage that is coming out of somebody's mouth and decipher what exactly their complaint is. Because if you turn around and just tell them, F you, I'm not listening to your crap anymore, and just walk off without even taking the time to find out what their complaint is, what usually happens? They wind up calling your boss. They call, I want to speak to a supervisor, and I want to speak to a supervisor now. I didn't like the way I was treated at that scene. Or they make some frivolous lie that never even happened. But thank goodness there are some good reasons why you do have an MVR today. That mobile cam is very beneficial for everything that a lot of people don't like about it. I can side with you on both fronts. But having that is also to prove that individual was an absolute liar at the scene, where they made some false accusation, and they forget the fact that you are recording. So communication, again, is very, very, very important. So when I'm going into this, good communication skills are obviously important to an officer. That is no brainer. Greater benefits of being able to communicate effectively. Poor communication skills create major issues. Now hear me on this. You roll up on a scene and it's like you have, I don't give a shit attitude. What kind of response are you going to get? So if you come across like, man, you're a pain in the ass, I don't even know why I'm here, I don't want to take this call, you're a seasoned veteran, you've got to keep your heart warm to the community. You cannot let that cynicism in your mindset or stereotypical saying, here we go, domestic call 484 at the same house. Or this is the same old individual that we've dealt with before on a specific complaint. You cannot let your heart get callous. Don't. You strive to keep it warm. You understand me? You strive to keep that heart warm. Because that's one of the first downfalls of a law enforcement officer is when they start letting their heart grow cold. When you can't feel anymore. And that is a problem. Because then you start treating everybody in the community like crap, and you fail to communicate. And the only communication that you're sending to them is, I don't want to be here, I could care less. Vice versa, I talked about this before. How you look is so important. I'm not asking you to look like Rocky Balboa, ripped. But I certainly do not want you to wind up being a fat ass weighing 400 pounds where they're using burlap to make your uniform. Communication skills is nonverbal as well. When you step out of that patrol car, you be proud of where you're at, wearing that badge. You are there as the peacemaker sometimes. Yes, you're the enforcer. Sometimes, overall, a lot of times, you're the peacemaker. So the communication skills that you effectively good are very, very, very important. Otherwise, garbage in, garbage out. If you provide the garbage to them, what do you expect? Do you think they're going to give you Cadillac service on their complaint? No. Now sometimes individuals, have I cut individuals off before? Absolutely. Have I regretted that? Yes. My younger years was really bad. I mean, there was some stereotypical moments that happened. I learned from some of the best veteran officers who told me how to get out of a complaint. Here in my rookie year, I'm listening to these other veteran officers, and this one officer named Fred. Fred was really good. He said, you know, I remember coming up to a scene and taking a call from somebody I didn't understand. They were going, rah, 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 rah. And I said, very interesting. Rah, yeah, rah, 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 yeah, yeah. Oh, okay. Okay, well, if it happens again, call us back. Never knew what was going on, but I'm a young, impressionable rookie, and no sooner 6 months, or maybe a couple months later, I get a call of a vandalism that has taken place to a person's car. They said the caller was difficult to understand. And I pull up on the scene, and there's this beat-up old Chevy Monte Carlo, and it looked like Dukes of Hazzards, but it was blue. It had a 01 on it, and it was beat up everywhere. It was a rust bucket. Guys had spray painted his can wherever he could, threw a little Bondo and duct tape on it. And that was his prize though. And he was trying to tell me that it had been vandalized. The minute I step out of the car and talk to him, he came up to me, well, you know, sometimes you want to bust out laughing. And I held that laughter within me. I says, okay, what's going on? Really? And I started doing exactly what Fred told me to do. Wow, you didn't say. I says, okay, well, if it happens again, call me back. He obviously would have wanted, maybe in his point, was trying to file the report, possibly maybe to an insurance company, the carrier. I used to think about that specific call through all the years, and I just felt like I really gave that guy awful service. And the point I'm trying to make is you don't just cut corners, listen to what is being said. So you do it right back at him. The stereotypes. You hear this terminology, implicit bias. A lot of times the biases that we have in our mind. I don't really want to go down that area. That's a whole subject matter in itself. But the point I'm trying to make is don't just assume when you're talking with somebody that you have the perfect message that you received from them. When they haven't even said anything to you. Okay? Here he is. Obviously, he stereotyped about her appearance and thought that she could probably barely speak English. What did he even say? Where are your people from? And how many times is it when somebody is deaf, you start yelling at them, hi, how are you? Right? That it's just nonsense. Or somebody who speaks a different language, you're trying to talk to them, you start talking louder. It's crazy, but that's exactly what happens in our daily life. So effective communication is very, very, very important. Interactive, exchange of thoughts. Now this is the perfect definition of effective communication. Okay? This is this flower power moment. Wow. Interactive exchange of thoughts, information, emotions, and attitudes between people where a degree of understanding takes place. In other words, everyone is on the same page. That is such a beautiful term. It is something that I wish I could stick underneath my pillow day and night. You know as well as I do what the real world is, don't we? This is sometimes a bunch of bunk. It doesn't happen this way because not everyone's going to be on the same page. But the striving of effective communication is interactive exchange of thoughts, whatever be the case, a person sharing with you at the scene. And it's not always all bad. Sometimes it's a moment where it's grief, where somebody has lost a loved one. They are grieving like there's no tomorrow, and they have nobody else to hug except you. You talk about embracing communication at that moment, very important. Emotions, somebody you just given a dying declaration to somebody, or delivering a message, a death message of losing a loved one. That's a gut punch. Absolute gut punch. So there's going to be emotions, attitudes. Sometimes people don't understand at that moment. And sometimes their self-denial will kick in. Sometimes they may break furniture. They may do a lot of different things. And sometimes you're there to provide some kind of support. Does it make sense? They may not always be on the same page, because what are you going to say to them that when you're given a death message that, hey, everything's fine. We're out of here. That's wrong. Sometimes they need you at that moment. Communication is very, very, very important then. And that's when you're striving to try and be in their shoes. What's scary, and it tore me apart more than once, is here when Victoria, my little daughter, was growing up, I was sometimes having to handle a scene where a child died. You talk about a real grieving moment, and you're thinking about a home at your own family, and yet you're at a scene where a child has died from an accident. I remember a girl accidentally hanging herself from a hood. She was playing up on the tree, climbing, and she had her winter coat on, and the coat was zipped up. Mom had zipped her up. She was playing with her little brother, and she slipped and fell off the branch, off of the tree, and the hood got caught onto a branch, and she literally choked to death. There was no bringing her back, and the flashbacks I have at my home, thinking about that moment, and then now, the family's grief. So the communication isn't always going to be a bunch of, quote, assholes out there. There are some people who are very, very, very decent, who are in their grieving moments, and you're trying to do the best you can to provide some form of communication or listen. So they may tell you a lot about their daughter or son. And you just, as a law enforcement officer, you become the minister at that moment to share with them, saying, you know, I'm sorry for your pain. I don't know everything you're going through, but I'm here for you right now. Solutions. Select a solution that meets both parties' needs. Plan who will do what and when. Implement a plan. So there are times where on the rollback you're on a peace officer complaint, where subject A is adamant that they want to get their stuff now. They're pretty upset. You wind up resolving that matter and saying, listen, why can't you do it at this specific time? Will this work for both parties? If you've got to work till 3 p.m. and you want to be here, why don't you do this at 3 p.m.? We will be here at 1,500 hours. We'll stand by to make sure that the person only removes their personal effects. You say you can only remove personal effects unless both parties agree to certain property being taken. Make sense? But you meet that. Meet the goal. Plan, if you can plan, that way both parties are pretty well satisfied. So I'm deviating from the typical traffic stop to whereas you're dealing with sometimes moments of crisis between boyfriend, girlfriend, sometimes family matters. And again, plan who will do what, and when and where. When I talked about earlier, delivering an emergency message, never go by yourself. If I've got to deliver a death message, or a message of an emergency aspect that's family related, that's going to create some emotional moment, 2 officers. One provides support in case anything else happens where you have to put that person in protective custody because they start trying to kill themselves. Now, it could be an emotional moment where they want to know everything. Maybe the person isn't deceased. Maybe they're in critical condition and have been taken automatically to the ER. And they're ranting and raving and they don't know what to do. It could be an uncontrollable spouse that is not in condition to be able to drive. So you as an officer say, we'll take you. We'll take you there. And that's great personal, that's very down to earth, very decent. Say, we'll take you to the hospital, we'll drive you right up there. I think that's a great, great gesture of showing what you do. But again, 2 officers handling the situation. And the 4th key reason is very important, which I showed you the other stop before. Well, the guy's meandering his way into a specific area. He is waiting for ambush. This is why, where the worlds collide on moments of pressure, attorneys have forever, they watch an officer's film, game film on a moment. 30 seconds of sensationalism versus the one officer at that moment had to act on what he had, the information he had at that moment. It's unfortunate that policy does this, or all the pressures, or whether the officer acted right or accordance. Was it unprofessional conduct? He swore at the felon. He told him to get his fucking hands up. Oh my gosh, that could hurt a lot of people's feelings. I'm telling you, where the rubber meets the road, you do not allow a felon to control the stop. Furthermore, so if you throw some 4-letter word acronyms in that, so be it. They better be good. The only one I say is don't say the Lord's name in vain. But if you're going to throw an F-bomb naturally, it may happen. I'm not sanctioning that every time you're doing F-bombs. But sometimes under the verbal continuum, on the force continuum, verbal commands, it does not say you cannot swear. So do what you need to do on a violent felon. You mean business. Get your hands up! Get them up now! I want to see those hands! I want to see your hands! Stick your hands out of the car! Do it now! Versus, please, please take your hands out of the car. Can you open the door for me, please? Toss the keys! Do it now! Big difference. Natural instinct. I didn't swear here, but there was those moments where it may naturally come out of your mouth. If you've got a potty mouth, chances are it's probably going to happen. You may get rent up by your department because you swore. Take it with a grain of salt. Move forward with it. But I'm just saying to you, don't worry about department policy. Kyle, you can see when he does this, he is all about concern about his professionalism, of how he's presenting and talking to the individual. Now, you understand where I'm coming from? So even on a stop, if a stop starts getting ugly, you maintain that stop. You maintain control of that stop. You tell him what you need him to do. If all the verbal commands after a while have not worked, then you kick up the force. What would a reasonable person do? Well, I go to my taser. He says, fuck you, I'm going to kick your ass, officer. Well, I don't have to wait and see it. I'll light him up with taser. I'll put him right down. He comes charging after me. Bam! Right across. Brachial stun. Boom, you are down. Exceptional police service. Those are those moments you maintain control of the stop based on what he has done or she has done. So if they've gone to active resistance to active aggression, like I'm going to kick your ass, you give them exceptional service right that moment. And it may mean the state does not prohibit a punch in the face. If a guy's coming right at you and you think he's coming right after to grapple with you, bam, right there. Or right in the brachial plexus origin. Or a hard punch into the torso. Bam, right there. Stop forward momentum. Didn't work very well, did it, Fields? Now, do you understand? This is why, where the rubber meets the road. This is where I'm telling you that the communication changes from just active listening to one-way communication. And the communication then isn't going to be necessarily verbal. Remember I said communication 7%? The way you say it, 38, but then the rest, 55%, is how you go at her. Well, now all bets are off the table. I've given you enough commands. I am going to give you exceptional service right now. Here it comes. The roadhouse moment. When is it? Learn to not be nice. This is the moment. I am not going to be nice. One-way communication. Nonverbal skills, put them to task. Everything that you've been learning as an officer come to fruition. At that moment, I'm putting him down. Fight's on, grappling. You can win it. Remember this, sometimes a guy may outmuscle you. I want you to remember this. This is a very key moment. The ATPs. Who knows what the ATPs stand for? Have you gone through it with your defensive tactics yet? Adenosine, triphosphate, phosphocreatine. Basically, it's adrenaline. Okay, real simple task, adrenaline. When you are at full capacity and you are going right at it, you're doing everything you can, you have a good 10 to 15 seconds for those of you, and maybe 20 seconds for those of you that are stellar. In either case, after that, that energy source is depleted. So hear me out. You got a guy who's an absolute asshole, and he's wheeling and dealing, and he's blasting you with every shot there is. And you're taking those shots. And those shots may hurt, but you sustain the course. No different than Muhammad Ali used to do the rope-a-dope. He let the guy hit. The guy starts getting tired, gets exhausted. Now there's the gravy. Here it comes. Saving grace by you. The superhero that you are inside you. Now, because you saved your energy source, you're going to take him down. So the strongest guy, if he's wheeling and dealing on you and he's blasting and kicking the shit out of you, withstand the course. You're by yourself, you're grappling, you've grabbed him in a bear hug, you hold him, and he's trying to fight like there's no tomorrow. You hold the line until he starts getting exhausted. Those ATPs start burning out, you got him. Because you've got your energy source. The body, when it starts at optimum performance, is 145 beats per minute. Afterwards, if it starts exceeding that, you're left with gross motor skills. So the fine motor skills that you might do, like writing, are out the table. It starts you don't have the control. If you can maintain that optimum heart rate, you've got him. Let him be the chucklehead to burn himself out. It may hurt, but if you can take those shots, then you've got him. On the other hand, if you feel tactically I can get him within that first 15, 20 seconds to put him in custody, then do it. I can't tell you when and where that's got to be. You're the person to know your own skills. But you have two options to do it. This is why some of the greatest boxers let the other guy blast. They take the shots, guy's depleted. Either has to go to some other energy level, other energy source in the body. Now, there is not to say that the person doesn't have some more to be able to give, but at full capacity, it's the best 10, 15 seconds. So just keep that in mind, all right? You may have your glasses blasted, your favorite Oakleys. You may have your contacts knocked out. You may have part of your teeth knocked out. You withstand the course. You do it. Again, on the other token, if you can take him within that 10, 15, 20 second moment to grapple him, put him in custody, then do it. But put him right down. I think for most of you, you'd be able to take that guy. Judging by age, there is some things that does say about experience, your youth, versus some individuals that might be a Vietnam veteran. But there are some things that come into play that you may have come into play and concerned about his skills. You don't know if you're dealing with a martial arts guy. You have no idea. But you have something has to be done the minute the guy goes active aggression. The minute you pull a felony stop and you come running up onto the car after you've ordered him out of the car and he won't get out, and you're running up to it, and all of a sudden he's making some furtive gestures, you open up that door and you pull him out. If ultimately, I'm not telling you to be John Wayne Hero, that all of a sudden the car is running and you're reaching in and he puts it in drive and drags you. That's stupid. But if you've got a high probability that the car is off or he can't get access and you're unbuckling his seatbelt, reaching in and doing a head redirect and pull him out, but make it quick. If you have to take his arm and put him by the B post by the car, and put the leverage. You put the leverage while you're on the inside of that B post and you've locking him straight arm with a straight arm bar and you're putting right down on his elbow to get him out, you get him out. You put the leverage on him, unbuckle your seatbelt now! Auditory, because sometimes he's feeling the pain here, you may have to repeat it more than once, but you're taking him out of the car, right? Any questions so far? There's no sugar cookie moments here. This is why we're talking about effective communication. There is no doubt about it. This is why also you got other witnesses hear your commands. Your video, obviously, if it's on, will also capture. You gave verbal commands to the individual. Plain and simple. One-way communication of what needs to be done. Questions so far? Anybody on this? Does this make sense to you, Ryan? I'm sharing this stuff, so I passionately try my best to share with you effective communication as an instructor. I don't want to give you shit. I don't want to give you crap and just read notes. Communication is so important. It is the building block of a law enforcement officer. Officer presence, first level command. Second level is the verbal commands themselves. Officer presence, verbal commands, telling them what you need them to do. A, B, and C. Everything else plays off on it based on his resistance level. Make sense?